Lonely receptionist's life changes at 3 a.m. when a powerful CEO unexpectedly pursues her true love. The clock struck 3, as it always did, cutting through the silence of the abandoned office like a knife. Janet Johnson, the lonely receptionist, found herself lost in the dim glow of the flickering fluorescent lights. As her fingers drummed nervously against the polished wood of her desk, an unsettling chill snaked up her spine. She was the only soul awake in this vast sea of emptiness, the only witness to the mysteries that lurked beneath the surface of her mundane existence. It was a time wrapped in secrets, a witching hour where anything could happen, and maybe, just maybe, it would. All she wanted was to finish her shifts and return to the safety of her tiny apartment. But strange things began to unfold around her. On this particular night, a shadow loomed at the far end of the hallway. It flickered and danced like a ghost in the corner of her eye. There was something about that shape that sent her heart racing, a mix of fear and undeniable curiosity. Was it just her imagination, or could that be someone passing by? She rubbed her eyes, peering closer into the darkness. The hum of the building's old heating system filled the eerie silence, and for a brief moment, it sounded like whispered secrets. Suddenly, the whir of the elevator cut through the tension, echoing against the stark walls. It felt like thunder in the quiet night. The doors slid open with a metallic hiss, and Janet's breath hitched as a sharply dressed man stepped into the light. She recognized him immediately: Lucas Varnell, the CEO of Varnell Enterprises, a man whose name was plastered across headlines and magazine covers. Yet, there he stood, his piercing blue eyes locking onto hers like a magnet. "Are you okay?" he asked, an unexpected softness emanating from his deep voice. Her breath caught in her throat, the lump threatening to choke her. What was he doing here at this hour? She could hardly respond, her mind racing. The stories of his cold demeanor and ruthless ambition collided with the warmth that now flickered from his gaze. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Lucas stepped closer, the air vibrating with unspoken tension. The way he looked at her sent electric jolts down her spine. In that moment, something stirred within Janet. Was this the chance she never dared to dream of? Just as the thoughts began to swirl in her head, the lights flickered again. A deep rumble from outside echoed like distant thunder, rattling the windows, and bringing an unsettling chill. Right then, the world outside shifted, as if a storm was brewing, or perhaps fate was drawing nearer. What was to come next? Would this encounter change her life forever? Or would it end before it even began? The very essence of possibility hung heavy in the air, tantalizing and terrifying in one breath. Lucas stepped into the fragile space of uncertainty, tension thick as fog between them. His presence was magnetic, holding her captive in the abyss of her own disbelief. Could the tales of his icy demeanor be performances, crafted for a world that demanded strength? Janet's heart raced with reckless ambition as he reached for her hand, hesitating as if he was probing the pulse of her response. "Janet, you seem distant. Talk to me," he urged, his voice lowering, the timbre sending a shiver through her. It was absurd. He was the CEO, the man whose ruthless decisions shaped the future of countless lives, and yet here he was, searching for connection. "Everything's fine," she stammered, the words feeling hollow in the air. But they weren't fine. Her instincts screamed of danger. This wasn't just a casual encounter. Just then, an ear-piercing siren wailed outside, the sound bouncing violently off the walls, turning the air electric. Lucas's features hardened, his eyes racing to the windows. What the hell is that? The world outside had transformed. The drizzle that had begun just moments ago swelled into a torrential downpour, the rain hitting the glass like 1,000 quickened heartbeats. Shadows danced in the transforming light as flashes of lightning illuminated his face, providing fleeting glimpses of the underlying tension etched into his expression. "I need to go," Janet's voice trembled, panic igniting the words as the storm's fury escalated. But a firm grip on her wrist halted her retreat. "No." His tone shifted from softness to urgency, echoing in the near silence of the deserted office. "Please, listen. There are things you don't know. I need help," he confessed, and for the first time, vulnerability pierced through his corporate armor. Her mind spun. Help? Him? This was too surreal. "What do you mean?" It felt more like a dare than a question. "Once, I had everything under control. Now, I'm at risk." The storm that raged outside paled in comparison to the whirlwind of emotions swirling within her. "I can't explain it all now, but I need someone I can trust. You have to believe me." The expression on his face twisted to one of desperation. It gave her pause. Beneath the polished surface, there lay a human grappling with fears. There was a flicker of raw honesty in his blue eyes that disarmed her. "Trust?" she whispered, incredulity dancing alongside fear. "Lucas Varnell, the man who doesn't trust anyone at all." He winced, releasing her wrist as if realizing how tightly he held her. "I was wrong. I am wrong. This isn't about me anymore, it's about the people who depend on me." As if on cue, a loud crash erupted from the floor above, vibrating through the building and freezing them both in place. "What was that?" she gasped, her heart hammering against her ribcage. "I don't know, but we can't stay here," Lucas replied, urgency clawing at his voice. He took a deep breath, eyes narrowing in determination. "We need to find out what is happening." He abruptly pushed past her, heading toward the stairwell, the authority in his demeanor igniting the fight-or-flight instincts roaring within her. Should she follow him? Every rational thread screamed against it. But adrenaline pulled at her. What if this was the opportunity she never knew she wanted? What waited behind the door was a truth that could forever intertwine their fates. Heart racing, Janet took a step forward, ready to follow him into the unknown as thunder rumbled ominously above, a sinister reminder that this night wasn't merely about them. "Janet!" His voice echoed down the hallway, urging her on. But what secrets lurked within the shadows of the office? Would they uncover something that would change everything they thought they knew? As she stepped forward, a new kind of fear gripped her, one that hinted that maybe, just maybe, it was all connected in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. Janet hesitated at the mouth of the stairwell. The flickering overhead light cast eerie shadows against the cold concrete, making it look as though arms were reaching out to pull her back. Still, the distant sounds of chaos echoed in her ears, drawing her closer. Lucas's figure was already ascending the stairway, his footsteps firm and purposeful. She couldn't lose him, not now. "Wait!" she shouted, her voice swallowed by the storm outside. She dashed forward, catching up to him just as they reached the next landing. The air was thick with dread, each step echoing like a warning. "What the hell is going on, Lucas?" she pressed, her pulse racing beneath the weight of uncertainty. "Just stay close to me," he instructed harshly, glancing back at her with wide eyes. "It's not safe." The urgency in his tone wrapped around her like a vice, squeezing away the logical thoughts that urged her to retreat. Instead, curiosity and fear surged forward, pushing her to follow him deeper into the unknown. As they climbed higher, the building's faint tremors intensified. It felt as though the very structure beneath them was groaning in pain. Lucas's jaw set tightly, his mind racing with thoughts Janet couldn't begin to understand. She could see the flicker of panic hidden behind his calm facade. They reached the third floor, and the noise was thunderous, now a cacophony of shattering glass and muffled shouts. Lucas turned to her, eyes sharp and intense. "We have to," he began, but before he could finish, a figure zipped by at the end of the hallway, barely visible in the shadows. "What was that?" Janet's voice wavered, anxiety coiling in her stomach. "Get back. he barked, shoving her gently but firmly behind him. In the dimness, another crash splintered through the air, this time closer, a graze of malicious intent that sent a shiver spiraling down her spine. She clutched the railing, her heart threatening to burst. Then, the door across the hall burst open, and from the doorway, a man stumbled out disheveled, eyes wild with fear. "Run!" he yelled, but it was too late. In that split second, men dressed in dark suits surged into view, their movements fluid and calculated. Janet's breath hitched as Lucas instinctively moved in front of her, his protective instincts flaring. "What do you want?" Lucas demanded, his voice steady despite the chaos threatening to unfold. "Get out of the way, Varnell," one of the men growled, his gaze flicking to Janet with a predatory interest. "This doesn't concern you." The room felt charged, a battle brewing beneath a veil of civility. Janet's mind raced. Who were these men? What did they want with Lucas? And why was he so willing to put himself in the line of danger for her? An answer unfolded in her mind, but it was drowned out by the tension in the air. She could barely breathe, caught between the urgency of her instincts and the visceral fear permeating every corner of her being. "Lucas, we need to go," she implored, clenching the edges of her sleeves as if that could somehow ground her. But he stood firm, eyeing the men with a mix of defiance and desperation. "No. Not without you." Electricity crackled through the air as the standoff reached its peak, and just when it seemed like all hope was lost, an explosion of light ripped through the dim hallway, a flash grenade. "Get down!" Lucas shouted, throwing his body over hers, the world dissolving into chaos as the blinding white light engulfed them. What would happen next? Would they escape the darkness that threatened to swallow them whole? In that heart-stopping moment, the only thing she could feel was the heat radiating from his body, a spark of hope amidst the shadows. But as the smoke lingered in the air, she couldn't shake the uneasy feeling creeping into her gut. What lay ahead, and would it forever change their lives? The light faded as quickly as it had exploded into existence, leaving behind a chaotic swirl of confusion and fear. Janet struggled to breathe beneath Lucas's weight, her heart racing faster than she thought possible. The air smelled burnt, a sharp contrast to the sharp, clammy sweat on her skin. "Lucas!" she gasped, trying to push him off. He rolled beside her, instinctively shielding her with his body. The hallway was littered with debris, the remnants of shattered glass reflecting the strobing lights as more chaos erupted in their surroundings. "Stay down," he hissed, eyes scanning for any signs of movement. Adrenaline coursed through her veins, the urgency of the moment gave her a clarity she didn't know she possessed. Behind them came a guttural roar followed by more explosions. A wave hit, echoing down the corridor. Suddenly, Lucas grabbed her wrist, pulling her up. "We need to move," he shouted, his voice cutting through the tumult around them. They sprinted, Janet's breath coming in ragged gasps as they ducked into a nearby room just before the dark-suited men poured down the hallway. Inside, the shadows cloaked them in safety momentarily, but it was deceptive. The adrenaline fueled her fear, and she felt each heartbeat surge in her chest. The room was dark, the windows boarded up, but the faint light from the hallway illuminated just enough for her to see. Lucas pressed against the door, listening intently. "What are they looking for?" she whispered, struggling to keep her voice steady. "Me." His response came out low but firm. "And maybe you too." "What did you do?" Panic threatened to override her. His expression was hard, but in those fierce eyes, she saw a flicker of regret. "I wasn't completely honest with you," he said, dragging his fingers through his hair. Just the sight of his subtle vulnerability made her want to comfort him, yet fear twisted her gut. "There are things I can't explain right now. Things that put you in danger. But I have to know. You can't just leave me in the dark." Her voice trembled as shadows danced around them, clawing at her with unseen fingers. The door shuddered violently as something slammed against it. She jumped back, dread pooling in her chest. "They're coming. Get ready," he warned, shifting to a fighting stance. The sound of footsteps thundered outside. A voice echoed, low and chilling. You can't hide forever, Varnell. Then, silence fell like a thick curtain, pressing against her ears. Time stretched, her heartbeat reverberating, echoing the voice of doubt in her mind. What had Lucas gotten her into? Before she could bat away the thought, the door heaved backward. It splintered just enough for a shadowed figure to slip inside. Janet gasped, panic disarming her senses as Lucas lunged forward, colliding with the intruder. The two men engaged in a desperate grapple for control, the sound of grunts and crashes reverberating through the room. Janet's heart raced, a fight-or-flight response roaring inside her. Lucas! She cried, unable to look away from their struggle. In one swift motion, Lucas threw the assailant against the wall, then turned to her, eyes blazing. We have to go now. With time slipping away, they barreled into the hallway, all-consuming chaos greeting them. She followed Lucas, eyes darting around for any signs of the men in suits. The air was thick with tension, the distant crash of windows and muffled shouts wove a tapestry of horror. The staircase loomed ahead, a promise of escape just beyond the floor. Stick to me. Lucas commanded, gripping her hand tightly. As they descended, Janet felt reality pressing in around her. The fear of the unknown mingled with the pulse of something deeper, a connection forged in danger, blurring the lines of loyalty and survival. But what awaited them at the bottom of the stairs? Would they find safety or plunge deeper into the abyss chasing shadows? Billowing smoke clouded her vision as she stole a glance at Lucas. The determination etched on his face filled her with a bittersweet resolution but also a deep fear of not knowing if they'd ever be freed. As they neared the exit, a figure dashed forward from the darkness, blocking their way. Would they evade the grip of their chasers and uncover just what kind of world Lucas had dragged her into? The moment of truth was upon them. The figure in the shadows loomed larger as they stepped closer. Janet's heart thundered in her chest, every instinct screaming at her to retreat. She barely registered the presence of a man until he broke into the pale light flickering overhead. Stop! The order rang out sharp, a command armed with authority. Lucas halted, pulling Janet back just an inch. She could feel his pulse, a frantic tempo matching her own. The man's face was partially concealed by the brim of a black hat, but his eyes gleamed with an unsettling intensity. We don't have time for this, Lucas growled, urgency lacing his tone. If you go further, you'll regret it, the stranger warned, his voice deep, foreboding. You're not going to escape this easily, Varnell. Janet's breath caught as the name hit her like a slap. Varnell. She glanced at Lucas, questions swirling in her mind like a storm. Before she could voice them, Lucas dashed forward, gripping the man by the collar and shoving him against the wall with a desperate force. She watched in horror, half in awe of Lucas's intensity, half terrified of the fury flooding the space between them. Who are you? Lucas seethed, eyes blazing. What do you want? The man laughed, an eerie sound that sent shivers down Janet's spine. You think you can run from your mistakes, Varnell? You're not the only one with a score to settle. And they're not just after you anymore. The words hung in the air, heavy and potent. Janet's mind raced, connecting dots that felt painfully foreign. What do you mean, not just after you? Her voice trembled as she stepped forward, drawing Lucas's attention. Everything you care about is at stake now, the stranger shot back, his gaze darting between them, calculating, cold. They'll burn it all down to get to you. You're both in this together now. Not if we leave now, Lucas replied, pumping with adrenaline, ready to act. We can still make it. The man's eyes narrowed. Running won't save you. You need to know the truth to survive. Panic edged into her thoughts like a creeping vine. Truth. Survival. What reality was Lucas trapped in? As if reading her mind, Lucas turned back to her, his expression softening for just a moment. Janet, he whispered, the fear evident behind his determination. If we don't move before he could finish, an earth-shattering explosion rocked the building, rattling the very walls around them. Janet screamed, instinctively clutching Lucas' arm as they were thrown back by the force. The darkness suddenly filled with blinding light. Smoke enveloped them, choking her lungs. In the chaos, the stranger vanished, and all that was left was confusion and dread. "Lucas!" she shouted, her voice hoarse with panic. "What is happening? Where did he go? We have to go." He grabbed her hand, pulling her along as they stumbled through the thickening haze. Janet could feel the heat rising, the walls closing in on them. Every breath felt like an invitation to danger. They barreled down the hallway, frantically shifting between rooms, looking for an exit. The smoke thickened, the wails of distant sirens piercing through the engulfing horror. Each door they threw open revealed darkened hallways echoing their urgency. And then, like a beacon, a door stood ajar at the end of the corridor, a sliver of light projecting hope into the engulfing darkness. "Please, let it be safe," Janet prayed, heart hammering as they surged forward, dread wrapping around her, squeezing tightly. They stepped through. The world outside was a shambles, flame and ash swirling in a violent dance. But before they could catch their breath, a sinister hiss sliced through the air, a reminder that danger was not done with them yet. They turned again, aware that their escape was just beginning, and the threats after them had only just unleashed their fury. But would they face their pursuers or find a way to finally break free? Just then, a distant roar echoed, leaving them both trembling and electrified with fear. Who would emerge from the smoke next? Janet was still reeling from the blast, her head spinning as she and Lucas stumbled out into the open air. The chaos around them felt surreal, a world swallowed by fire. Her heart raced, and the stench of smoke and burning debris clawed at her throat as she gasped for breath. "Lucas, what do we do?" Her voice cracked under the pressure of confusion and fear. The sirens grew louder, a harbinger of an approaching storm. Lucas scanned the area, eyes darting left and right like a trapped animal. He looked desperate, a predator searching for a way out. "We keep moving. We don't stop until we're safe." Janet wanted to protest, to demand answers. But in this moment, all she could do was nod. They stumbled down the street, past shadowy figures and broken glass. Her mind raced with thoughts of the stranger, the explosion, and the name that echoed in her head: Varnell. Who was Lucas really? A sudden sound blared like a horn, growing closer, sharper. Lucas's back stiffened. "We need to hide." He pulled her into a narrow alleyway, the slim passage constricting them in darkness, as they pressed against the cold stone walls. "Oh God, what now?" she whispered, heart racing. "Just wait." Lucas's voice was fierce, protective. She could see the tension etched on his face, like a coiled spring ready to snap. The horn blared again, followed by the screech of tires. An ominous black SUV rolled past, lights flickering like malevolent eyes scanning the streets. "Too close." "Who are they?" she murmured, not sure if she really wanted to know. "Enemies." Lucas clenched his fists, a look of determination rising in him. "They've tracked me. We have to get to a safe place." The SUV stopped, and two figures stepped out, clad in black. They moved with chilling purpose, eyes scanning the area. Janet's breath quickened as fear gripped her. This was it, they were coming for them. Suddenly, Lucas grabbed her arm, pulling her deeper into the shadows as panic threatened to consume her. "Don't make a sound," he warned, voice barely above a whisper. Janet's pulse thundered, hands trembling. The figures approached, talking in low voices. She strained to hear, but their words were drowned by her heartbeat, echoing in her ears. "Is he here?" "He has to be," one of them said, urgency coating his tone. "We need to find him before he finds out," the other replied, glancing around. Terror crawled up her spine. They were talking about Lucas. She wanted to scream, to run, but she couldn't move. Not with danger lurking at their doorstep. Out of nowhere, a sound, a crash, came from further down the alley, startling her. The figures whirled, weapons drawn, and Lucas used the moment to yank her further back. They pressed against the wall, breaths shallow, adrenaline flooding her senses. Then everything exploded again, not with fire but chaos, people screaming, glass shattering. Now. Lucas pulled her towards a rickety door at the back of the alley. It groaned as they pushed inside, slamming it shut behind them. They tumbled into darkness, a cramped, musty space that felt claustrophobic. "What is happening?" she hissed, panic-driven thoughts racing. "We're trapped." "Not yet." Lucas's breath was shaky as he peered through a grimy window. "But we need a plan." "They won't stop." His word echoed in her mind. They wouldn't stop. The gravity of their situation crashed down on her. What truth? What did that man mean? Lucas turned towards her. Emotion flickered across his face: fear, regret, determination. "I'll explain everything, I promise. But first, I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Before she could respond, a loud bang rattled the door, the figures outside growing closer. Her heart sank, dread pooling in her stomach. Trust had never felt so heavy, so terrifying. "Get ready," Lucas whispered, his voice firm. "We can't go down without a fight." And as the door shook again, another thought pierced through the haze of her fear. Who were they really up against, and what awaited them on the other side? With a surge of adrenaline, Janet readied herself. Whatever was about to happen next would change everything forever. The vibrations of the door rattled through Janet's bones, a constant reminder of the danger outside. Lucas moved close, his whispered urgency pressing against the backdrop of chaos. "On the count of 3, we're busting out. Remember, follow my lead." Janet nodded, though her throat felt dry, stripped of courage. A voice inside screamed for her to run, to escape this nightmare twisting around her, but another part knew she had to trust him. 1, 2. When he said 3, they flung the door open like a hatch to hell. They didn't hesitate to spring into motion, darting down a narrow corridor that smelled of damp and decay. Voices echoed behind them, heavy footsteps following too close for comfort. "Lucas, where are we going?" she gasped, desperation squeezing her lungs. "Just keep moving," he snapped, scanning their surroundings with sharp eyes. "There's got to be a way out. We need to lose them in the crowd." They rounded a corner and found themselves in a cramped stairwell, the narrow stairs spiraling downward. Lucas bolted down the steps, pulling her along, the dim light flickering overhead like a warning. Each footfall was a rhythmic drum of adrenaline pounding against her chest. "Do you think they saw us?" she whispered, glancing back, her breath a steady hitch of panic. "They're not far behind," Lucas replied, determination hardening his features. "We have to." Before he could finish, they reached the bottom. The door at the end of the landing was lined with the promise of freedom. Lucas pushed it open with a quiet force. Ahead, the dissipating sound of mayhem filled the alleyway. They tumbled into a city that felt shockingly tranquil against the chaos that had chased them. The street was eerily deserted, the faint illumination of streetlights casting ghostly shadows. For a moment, they paused. Janet leaned against the wall, trying to catch her breath, her heart racing like a runaway train. "Where now?" she gasped. Lucas scanned the street. "We can't stay out in the open. We need to find a place." The growl of an engine interrupted him. Lucas stiffened, eyes narrowing as a familiar black SUV emerged from the darkness, headlights piercing the fog like blades. He grabbed her arm again, urgency swirling around them. "Inside." He jerked her towards a nearby building, a decrepit warehouse with rusted metal doors wide enough for them to slip through. Once inside, they ducked behind a stack of crates, the air tinged with the smell of oil and dirt. "What do they want from you?" Janet whispered, struggling to keep her composure. "What is going on?" "They think I have something vital," Lucas replied, his voice low, filled with strained weight. "They want it back." "Vital? Like a secret?" Her stomach churned at the implications, pieces of a puzzle she felt ill-equipped to solve. "Yes, but it's not just any secret. It's a matter of life and death." His words hung heavy in the air, mingling with the silence of the warehouse. Outside, footsteps crunched on gravel, their enemies drawing closer. Lucas clenched his jaw, intensity radiating off him. Janet, he took a deep breath, as if preparing for a leap. I thought I could keep you out of this, but now it's too late. They're coming for you too. What? Her heart plummeted, panic clawing at her insides. I didn't sign up for this. I know, but you need to trust me. He grasped her shoulders, gaze locked onto hers, desperation in his eyes. You're the only one who can help me find it before they do. The footsteps echoed louder. Janet's mind raced, reality crashing hard. Help you with what? I'm just a receptionist. You have no idea the strength you have, he said, his voice steadying. But time is running out. You need to decide, will you stand with me, or do we let them win? Just then, the warehouse door creaked open, and shadows loomed in the doorway. Their dark forms silhouetted against the streetlights felt like death incarnate. Choose. Lucas hissed, breaking through the looming dread like a lifeline. Suddenly, clarity washed over her. The world outside mattered little compared to the weight of Lucas's words. But uncertainty gnawed at her, churning in her gut. Would she really step into the storm that threatened to consume them both? As figures began to step inside, her choice became clear, but it might come at an unimaginable cost. Janet's heart raced as the silhouettes advanced, dark figures shifting like shadows. They were almost upon them, and all the weight of Lucas's words pressed down on her. It was either leap into the unknown or let the dark embrace of fear swallow her whole. I'll help you. She blurted out, her voice trembling but resolute. The moment she uttered those words, an electrifying thrill mixed with dread surged through her veins. Lucas's grip tightened slightly, a flicker of relief washing over his features. Okay. Let us move, he urged, his voice urgent as he pulled her further into the warehouse. They scrambled away from the entrance, ducking lower behind the crates as the intruders prowled inside, flashlights cutting through the dimness like sharpened knives. I should have never gotten involved with this, she thought, biting her lip. But inside, her resolve crystallized. She had no choice now, she was in as deep as he was. The shadows grew sharper as the figures illuminated their path with beams of light, the air thick with tension. Lucas whispered, just stay low. We need to find a way out without being seen. Janet watched as Lucas peered around a corner, calculating their move. Her throat felt tight, fear pooling in her stomach. Would she really have to face what lay ahead? She stole a glance at Lucas, whose fierce determination seemed to radiate into the dim space around them. The realization struck her that he was not just a coworker she had been indifferent to. It was all too clear now that he was someone ready to risk it all. The footsteps came closer. What do you think they want from me? She murmured, trying to distract herself from the impending confrontation. They want the data I found, Lucas replied, voice low. It involves something massive, scandalous enough to shake powerful people. Data? What kind of data? Janet struggled to comprehend it all. And how did you even get mixed up in this? He sighed, working to keep his voice steady. That's a story for later. Right now, we have to stay alive. A jarring clatter echoed through the space, jarring both of them. Check over here. One of the intruders barked. Lucas pulled Janet further back, crouching low. His arm brushed against her shoulder, the fleeting contact igniting an unexpected warmth. Trust me, he said softly, his breath mingling with the musty air. Always, she breathed back, surprised by her own conviction. Just outside their hiding spot, the flashlight beam swept over the piles of crates. They couldn't stay here much longer, desperation sparked within her. What if we create a distraction? She suggested, her mind racing fast. He raised an eyebrow, intrigued. What do you have in mind? Something loud. Maybe we can lure them away, she said, her pulse quickening at the thought of action. Lucas studied her for a moment, assessing. All right, but it has to be big. They shared a conspiratorial glance, and Janet's thoughts raced even faster. She saw an old metal pipe leaning against a wall and motioned toward it. "I can make some noise with that, we just have to time it right." "Go," Lucas murmured. "I'll cover you." Janet felt a jolt of adrenaline as she crawled silently, the anticipation of the plan igniting her senses. She could feel the rhythm of her heartbeat pounding against her ears. Just as she reached the pipe, Lucas suddenly seized her wrist. "Wait!" he whispered urgently. "What?" She barely breathed. "Look!" He pointed toward the flickering light at the entrance, where three dark figures were now moving through the cramped space of the warehouse. The intruders were closer, and she felt her pulse quicken with terror. "I don't know how much time we have," he urged, eyes fierce. "We need a plan. Now." She opened her mouth to speak, but a shout rang out. "Check over there. They can't have gone far." A shiver crept down her spine. Suddenly, panic clawed at her, combining with the burning desire to fight back. They needed a way out, a moment to breathe, and the seconds were slipping away like sand through her fingers. "I'm ready," she declared, her voice a raw whisper, solid with resolve, as she gripped the pipe with newfound strength. This was their chance. Together, they could find a way to escape the darkness, but as she prepared to make a sound, a loud crash rippled through the warehouse, the sound of a heavy object hitting the ground. The shadows froze, and Janet's breath caught in her throat. What was that? Lucas's eyes widened, and just then, a voice cut through the silence, deeper and more melodic than the others. "Let us finish this." In that moment, everything hung on the precipice of chaos. Would they emerge as survivors, or was this where their journey would end? Janet's heart thundered in her chest, drowning out the ominous sounds carving through the warehouse. The unsettling voice binding them was dangerously close, their time was slipping away. She locked eyes with Lucas, a storm of fear and unspoken determination connecting them in that shadowy abyss. "Did you hear that?" Janet's voice was barely a whisper, edged with panic. Lucas nodded slowly. "We can't let them catch us here." "Where?" she rasped, scanning the dark expanse around them, looking for an escape route. The silhouettes loomed larger, more menacing. Down the hallway, he motioned with a sharp nod, leading their escape plan. Without another word, they both crawled low, blending with the dust and shadows as they skittered behind boxes stacked haphazardly in the corner. The voices intensified, muffled yet commanding, sending shivers crawling up her spine. "If they have the data, they'll be worse than dead. They'll become an example." One of the figures barked, the threat slicing through the tense air like a blade. "What do you think they'll do?" Janet whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. The tension twisted her insides, and the more she could envision the horrors awaiting them, the more helpless she felt. "I don't know," Lucas whispered back, "but we can't let them find us." As they padded forward, slipping through the dim light like whispers, the scent of mildew and rust wrapped around them. With every heartbeat echoing in her ears, Janet could sense danger pinching closer. A jingle of keys pierced the oppressive silence, and her gaze darted toward a nearby door. "There," she breathed in disbelief, her fingers tightening around the pipe. "If we can get to that door." But just as hope flickered in her chest, a loud crash erupted behind them. The crates they had hidden behind toppled over, each thud ringing out like an alarm. "Get back here!" a voice roared, amplified by the cavernous space. The men had found their hiding spot. "Run!" Lucas shouted, pulling her towards the door as they burst from their cover, adrenaline driving their flight. They sprinted down the hallway, the darkness swallowing their hurried steps. Instinct pushed them forward with one singular urgency: escape. They reached the door, its frame dark and uninviting. Lucas twisted the knob, but it wouldn't budge. Panic clawed at Janet's throat. "What? No. Please, it has to open. Hold on." He grunted, throwing his shoulder against it. The wood creaked, but it refused to yield. Just then, the voices drew near, echoing down the hall. split up. One of the intruders ordered. They can't escape if we corner them. Lucas, we can't split up. Janet cried, eyes wide with terror. I know, but if we stay together, they'll trap us for sure. His determination glowed even in the dim light. With startling force, Lucas pushed again against the door. This time, a splintering sound rang out, and the door shuddered, giving way to a narrow passage beyond. He stumbled forward, nearly knocking Janet off her feet as she followed him through the opening. The door slamming shut behind them, they found themselves in what looked like a loading dock area, dimly lit yet quieter than the warehouse. But as they paused to catch their breath, the shadows seemed to stretch and shift with their own intentions, almost as if alive. Do you think they'll look for us here? Janet breathed heavily, her chest tightening in anxiety. They have to. They want the data. Lucas's brow furrowed, determination overshadowing fear. We need to find a way to secure our escape. Before she could respond, a flash of light erupted from a distant entryway, and Janet froze. A figure stepped into view, taller, imposing. There was no mistaking the intent in their stride. Lucas. We need to hide. Janet hissed, glancing around frantically. I have a plan, he said, his tone unwavering. But it involves confronting them. What? Are you insane? Panic surged through her, but Lucas turned, his eyes reflecting a fierce resolve. This ends now. We either confront them or they'll come for us. In that moment, they both knew, there was no time left for choices, only action, and perhaps salvation. The figure drew closer, shadows rippling, and just as Janet opened her mouth to form words, a chilling laugh echoed out. Found you. Janet's stomach dropped, despair creeping in. As Lucas braced himself, heart pounding, she couldn't shake the gnawing thought, what if their fate had already been sealed? But the bleak darkness wasn't through with its secrets yet. Out of the shadows, an unexpected ally stirred, leading to the question weighing heavy in the air, were they sure about their next step, or had they just walked deeper into the trap? The air crackled with tension as the figure stepped closer, revealing a familiar face, Derek, Lucas's right-hand man, but there was something different about him, a kind of dark resolve that sent a chill down Janet's spine. Derek! Lucas exclaimed. What are you doing here? Derek's gaze was steely, the corner of his mouth twitching in a mock smile. Keeping an eye on things, Lucas. You're making quite a stir tonight. Janet felt a flutter of fear. Derek had always been a loyal enforcer, but loyalty sometimes walked a thin line between light and dark. This felt more oppressive than she could bear. She instinctively pressed closer to Lucas, her heart racing. What do you want? Lucas demanded, every word laced with firmness despite the peril caving in on them. Derek took a step forward, eyes darting around. You have something I need, Varnell. And it's time you handed it over. What do you mean? Janet asked, her voice trembling, the lump in her throat growing heavier. We don't have anything to give you. Just let us go. That's not the way it works anymore, sweetheart, Derek sneered, eyes narrowing. You've both crossed lines tonight. Her stomach dropped as it dawned on her the truth she had been so desperately seeking was buried under a veil of malicious intent. Lucas stepped forward, his tone commanding. You think I'm afraid of you? You should know me better than that. As thunder rumbled in the distance, an intense feeling of solidarity surged through Janet. Lucas wasn't just fighting for himself, he was protecting her too. No. She shouted, her resolve hardening. You don't get to decide how this ends. Derek's expression changed. You have no idea what you're up against, sweetheart. This is bigger than you can fathom. Lucas's grip on her hand tightened. We can take him. The words hung in the air, bold and electrifying. Before they could react, Derek lunged, a swift and calculated move meant to overtake Lucas, but Janet acted on instinct. She swung the pipe she had scavenged earlier, connecting with a resounding thud against Derek's side. He stumbled back, eyes wide with shock. Adrenaline surged through her veins. "Run!" she yelled, dragging Lucas behind her as they shot down a darkened corridor. The noise of the confrontation echoed behind them, but the tension of uncertainty fueled them forward. As they burst through a pair of double doors into a cavernous loading bay, harsh lights suddenly flickered on, drowning them in stark brightness. The massive garage door loomed in front, a gateway that could lead to freedom, but chaos erupted behind them again. A thunderous crash as Derek regained his balance, followed close behind by the sound of boots pounding against the concrete floor. "Quick! Help me!" Lucas called, dashing towards the lever that controlled the door. Without hesitation, she followed, fear and adrenaline propelling her forward. Together, they pulled down on the lever, the door groaning as it began to rise slowly, but the sound of footsteps grew nearer, the clamor an ominous countdown. "Hurry!" she cried, panic weighing on her chest as she glanced back just in time to see Derek racing towards them, rage etched in his features. With one final push, Lucas jumped in front of her. "Get through. I'll hold him off." "No!" she screamed. "We go together." "I can't leave you," he insisted, voice firm yet frantic. "It's not how it ends," she shouted, but the clattering of feet urged her forward once more. The door was almost halfway up. Freedom was within their grasp, but it was costing Lucas everything. "Go!" he shouted, determination bleeding through his command. With tears threatening to spill, she moved against every instinct to stay. "Lucas! Go!" he roared, and the sheer force in his voice propelled her into action. Without looking back, she dashed through the opening, the air hitting her like a fist, and she rolled onto the asphalt just in time. The breathless night surrounded her, filled with the cacophony of a world that felt distant from the chaos she just escaped. Lucas was moments behind. He burst through the door just as the weight of it began to descend, narrowly avoiding a partial closure. He hit the ground with a heavy thud, scrambling up as the door came crashing down, obscuring the chaos within. Their eyes met, and a surge of relief swept over her. That moment, pure and electrifying, sparked into a realization that unfolded between them, tethering them through the storm of madness. "Where do we go?" she gasped, heart still racing. "Anywhere but here," he replied, breathless yet resolute. Hand in hand, they sprinted away from the warehouse, pulses synchronized as they tore through the empty streets, leaving the remnants of their past behind, each step a promise forged against the darkness that had tried to claim them. As they turned a corner, the corners of his mouth lifted slightly, a small flicker of a smile breaking the weight of their shared burden. "You didn't have to fight back," he said, glancing sideways at her, a hint of admiration threading through his voice. "I was going to let you face it alone." The bond that had formed under pressure now felt unbreakable, strong enough to withstand even the darkest of storms. But the night was still vast and uncertain, leaving shadows trailing behind. "First things first, we need to find somewhere to regroup. You deserve answers." And just like that, the echoes of that chaotic evening pulsed ahead, uncertainty, fear, and hope weaving a new narrative. Together they could not only survive but face whatever the future held. Together, she confirmed, a sense of unity holding her close despite the fears gnawing at her heart. Within the chaos of uncertainty, a sliver of hope emerged, an understanding that they could reshape their story, definitely leaving the ghosts of the past behind as they stepped into the unknown. Hand in hand. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to show your support, it makes all the difference.